Now we'll do a variation of Urdhva Hastasana with 2 blocks and a strap. So place 1 block between your feet and place 1 block between your upper inner thighs, and then hold on to the strap with your hands at shoulders distance apart and lift the strap up and overhead. Let the thighs internally rotate and the outer thighs squeeze the block. So the outer thighs squeeze the inner thighs, which squeeze the block, and then lift the low belly up off the pelvis and lift the rib cage up off the abdomen. Lift the back ribs up off of the lower back. Stretch the arms up to the ceiling. Put tension on the strap. Extend the arms and legs fully. Make lots of space and length in your body here. And let the abdomen settle back towards the anterior surface, the front surface of the lumbar spine. So let the front waist move to the back waist. As your arms move back, let the waist move back. Stand right over your arches and lengthen and breathe here. Full extension in the arms and the legs. Create an ascension of the spine from bottom to top, deep inside yourself. Deep breath here, and then lower your arms down. Now we'll practice Garudasana. Bring your feet together, be in Tadasana. And as you inhale, sweep your arms up, keep the waist settling back. Be long in your trunk, and then exhale and bend your knees and sit your hips back and down for Utkatasana. And then swing the right arm under the left arm. Bring all your weight onto the left foot, left leg. Lift the right thigh up and cross your right thigh over the left thigh, high up on the thighs. You can wrap your right foot around the left calf if that's available to you. And then we'll do a curl here in this version of Garudasana. So start to pull the abdomen back to encourage a nice rounding of the lumbar. And it's not a contraction, it's a soft receding of the lower belly, moving back towards the spine. Round yourself and let your forearms go down. Bend both knees. Let all of your weight be pouring into that left foot so you're nice and steady there and heavy in that standing leg. And then sink your hips down as you start to lift the spine up again, lifting the elbows and the forearms long through the fingers. And then swing yourself out of the pose, both feet down, even stance here. And then swing your arms up again. And pull the inner thighs, pubic bone, outer hips back and down. And swing your left arm under the right. Swing your left thigh over the right thigh and hook the foot around if you can. Let the long, low belly recede gently back towards the spine to encourage a nice rounded position in the spine here. A soft rounding as the forearms drop down. Soft, long belly receding. Be strong in your legs here, bending the knees more. Breathe smoothly here as you balance. And then find an earthiness in the legs. And from a deep internal place, start to lengthen yourself back up, lifting the elbows, lifting the sides of your rib cage, sinking down into the right foot. And then release yourself out of the balance, stand on 2 feet, and recover with an open chest here. Now we'll practice Uttanasana with a block between the upper inner thighs. So place a block way up high in the thighs. Have your feet right underneath your sitting bones. Bring your hands to your hips. Lengthen the side ribs. Let the shoulders move back, elbows back. Inhale and lift the front of your spine, and then exhale and fold over your legs. Fingertips coming down onto the mat. And start to squeeze the block with your outer thighs. So the outer thighs squeeze into the inner thighs, into the block. Connect the outer body towards the midline. So the squeezing of the legs from outer to inner is an expression of the outer body hugging the midline. Let your legs be tall and active and squeezing in, and then let this help you release your spine more, relaxing and releasing the spine down and forward like a waterfall, flowing out of the pelvis and down towards the top of the head, so the head is relaxed. Let your abdomen recede back. Let there be a gentle roundness in the lumbar. Let your rib cage be heavy, the front side of the rib cage, the back side. And then bring your hands to your hips. Reach the chest forward, shoulders back, and come up. As you're here now, maintain that squeezing of the outer thighs in. Now we'll get ready for a deep low lunge with the back knee down. So place a blanket on your sticky mat as you see here, and that will be the padding for the knee that will drop down. And then stand at the front of your sticky mat with a block on either side of each foot. Stand tall in mountain pose. Stand tall in mountain pose with energized legs. And then bring your hands down to the blocks and step your left foot back. Gather the outer right hip back and in. Lift the back thigh up. Lengthen the spine from bottom to top. Long trunk here, long abdomen. And let your hips sink down to be the height of the front knee. And then let your hips sink even further down as you reach the left thigh further back, and then place the left knee down on the blanket, and then untuck your back toes. So the front of the shin and the front of the foot and the back leg is resting down on the blanket and the sticky mat, and sink your hips forward and down. So the whole sacrum is relaxing and releasing forwards, and then lift your low belly so that you lift your trunk up and out of the pelvis. Bending deeply in the front knee, pull the outer right hip back. Pull the right femur back towards the hip socket. Pull the outer right hip back and also towards the midline. Gather your hips towards each other. Lift the low belly. Kick the back shin into the sticky mat. And then tuck your back toes under, lift your back thigh, and step your back foot forward. Then now step your right foot back, first coming into a simple lunge. Gather the left femur back towards the hip socket. Lift the back thigh. Let your hips come down to be the same height as the front knee. Gather your hips together and lengthen your spine. And then walk your right leg even further back. Extend that right thigh further back. Sink your hips down and then lower the back knee down onto the blanket. And rest the top of your back foot down onto the sticky mat. Kick the right shin down into the ground as you take your hips forward, letting the whole sacrum move forward. The tailbone moves into the body, and then lift your low belly and gather your outer left hip from the outer knee to the hip socket. So the outer left hip gathers back and in towards the midline. Squeeze your outer hips together, lift the deep low belly again, and lengthen through the anterior spine, kicking the right shin down. Bending deeply in the front knee. Smooth breathing here. And then tuck your back toes and lift your back thigh. And step your back foot forward. Bend your knees, relax and release your head down, and then take your hands to hips and stretch your chest forward to come on up. Now we'll practice side angle pose. Start in Tadasana with feet together. And then bring your hands onto your hips and step your feet wide. Have your toes pointing in so the heels are a little wider than toes. Long spine, shoulders back. And then turn the right leg all the way out and the left toes in a little more. Shoulders to the back of the shoulder sockets, long in the waist, and then bend the right knee deeply. Rest the right forearm onto the right thigh and get long from the left heel all the way through the top of the head. So the trunk is on a diagonal here, lengthening in line with the back leg, which is straight and extended. And then lift the left arm to the ceiling to help you open the left ribs. Think of lifting the belly to the ceiling. And think of grounding that right sitting bone forward towards the right groin, so the buttocks is not reaching back behind you. And then take the top arm all the way up and across, gazing at the top hand, and find a nice long line of energy from back heel all the way up through the top hand. And then inhale and lift yourself out of the pose, straightening the legs, hands to hips and change sides, turning the left leg all the way out, turn the right toes even more in, shoulders back, long spine, bend the left knee deeply, rest the left forearm onto the left thigh, and open the right shoulder so that the front of your trunk is pointing straight forward. Long line from the back heel, extended in the back leg, and all the way through the spine, through the top of the head. And then lift the right arm up, lift the belly to the ceiling, open the right ribs, drop the left butt cheek down and under you, and ground the center of that left butt cheek forward towards the groin. Strong in the back leg. Ground the right thigh back in space as you extend the knee, and then take that top arm all the way across so that it continues that diagonal line, gazing at the top palm. Strong in the back leg, very bent in the front knee, lifted in the low belly, and turn the right ribs open towards the ceiling. Gather the left butt cheek more underneath you. And then inhale and come all the way up to straight legs, arms extending to the sides, hands to hips, feet parallel. Recover with an open chest, and then step your feet together. And now lay down on your back and have a block nearby for a core breath exercise with a block between the knees. So set up yourself in a supine neutral position with knees bent and feet flat, and then place the block between the knees and squeeze it. Arms resting by your sides. And let your pelvis rest in neutral here. Long spine. Relax your body and breathe here. A gentle squeeze of the block. And then inhale and lengthen your spine. And then exhale and start to scoop the belly, contracting the deep, low belly back towards the front surface of the spine, and a gentle tuck of the pelvis as the expression of your contraction deepens, and then squeeze the block as well. Finish the exhalation here. And then inhale your spine long. Bring the pelvis back to neutral, relax the belly, all on the inhalation. And then exhale, and again find a deep contraction so the back of the abdomen pulls towards the spine. A gentle tuck and squeeze the block with your inner knees. Inhale to lengthen your spine, neutral pelvis, relaxed abdomen. And exhale, a deep contraction of the back of the low belly. So the outer layers of the abdomen are soft. It's really the deep, deep psoas and transverse abdominis that are working. As you continue, and stay present with the same pattern here. Exhaling to scoop and squeeze the block. Inhaling to lengthen and neutralize. And so we're integrating the core engagement with the waking up of the adductors, the inner thigh muscles, creating some connection there, some muscular activity that's connected. Continue with a very internal focus. See how much you can refine the scoop, refining how you're engaging the deep low abdomen, how you're contracting and pulling the deep low abdomen, the psoas muscles, back towards the spine, towards the back body, and how you can release that contraction as you inhale and create length, profound length in the abdomen. Emphasizing the squeeze of the block as you exhale, especially at the second part of the exhalation. And do one more complete round. And then when you're finished, you can remove the block from your knees. And now we'll do Setu Bandhasana, moving in a flow. So ground the arms as you inhale and come all the way up to Setu Bandha, lifting the buttocks, and then exhale and roll yourself back down, letting the buttocks come down last. Keeping the arms extended by your sides, palms flat. You'll keep the arms here as you inhale and lift the buttocks up and continue to lift the spine up, lift the chest, and exhale, release the spine down, letting the thoracic spine roll down, then the lumbar, and then the buttocks. Inhale to lift the buttocks first, lifting the lumbar, lifting the thoracic, one vertebrae at a time, and exhale, roll the thoracic and lumbar and pelvis and tailbone back down. And continue with this flow, staying grounded in the inner feet, staying gathered in the outer thighs and outer knees, staying grounded in the hands and in the forearms. Let your breath be open, let the back of the throat be open as you undulate here in Setu Bandhasana, going at your own pace. And then the next time you roll down, stay here and take a couple of breaths resting. Now we'll practice an active version of Setu Bandhasana. So lay down on your back with your knees bent and feet flat, And bring your feet quite close to your sitting bones and a little bit wider than your sitting bones. And then you're going to tuck the pelvis under and lift the tailbone up and interlace your fingers underneath your buttocks and walk your shoulders closer together underneath you. Stretch through the arms and press the forearms and elbows down as you lift the buttocks higher. You can even lift up the heels to lift the buttocks higher. Reach the shoulder blades into the rib cage, which will help you open the chest towards the chin. And lift the buttocks more. Ground the heels now and think of the right and left sides of the tailbone lifting. Magnetize the knees towards each other. And then lift up a little higher and release the interlace of the fingers. And then roll your spine back down, letting the tail come down last. Now grab a bolster and a blanket and we'll practice camel pose. So place your blanket down on the sticky mat so that your shins have some padding. And stand on your shins on the blanket and then place the bolster right on top of your heels. And then you can go ahead and sit down on the bolster. Pull your sitting flesh back so that you can sit up nice and tall. And be here in neutral just for a moment. And then press your fingertips down onto the bolster, leaning back onto your hands, and start to lift your pelvis up and forward to come into camel. Lift your shoulder blades up towards the front of the rib cage as you lift the sternum up and back and come into the back bend here, and finally releasing the head back. Think of the outer thighs squeezing in, tailbone anchoring forwards, inner thighs reaching back a little bit, pelvis moving forward, and reach the shoulder blades up towards the ceiling for support. Press into the fingertips, and then come out of the pose by lifting the chest up and then sit back down on the bolster. Now we'll practice Upavishta Konasana. So sit on the corner of a folded blanket as you see here and stretch your legs out to the sides. So don't have your legs too wide. I would say about 120-degree angle is plenty wide. And take your hands behind you on the blanket and press your fingertips down into the blanket so that you can lengthen the spine up, shoulders back. Tops of the thighs are very grounded, and make sure the thighs are not internally rotating or externally rotating, but the fronts of your legs are pointing straight up to the ceiling. Feet are pointing straight up to the ceiling in flexion. Ground down the tops of your femurs and lift the low belly. Inner and outer knees equally grounded. Inner feet extending. Spread the inner legs from the groins to the inner knees to the ankles and gather the outer thighs back into the hips. And then start to take a twist to the right. So the left hand comes in front of your pubic bone onto the floor and the right hand is behind you on the blanket. Keeping the legs active, start to turn the belly, turn the low belly, turn the navel, turn the rib cage. Left ribs forward, right ribs back. Get grounded, especially in that left femur. Inner left knee grounding. And come back to the center. Pause here. And then twist over to the other side, taking the right fingertips to the sticky mat in front of your pubic bone. Left hand behind. Ground the right femur, ground the right inner knee as you turn the low belly to the left. Rotate the navel to the left, rotate the ribs. Take the left ribs forward and the right ribs back. Keep your breath open here as you turn, as you twist. And then come back to the center. Gather the outer thighs towards the hip sockets. Lengthen the side ribs up towards the armpits and take your shoulders back and down. Inner knees grounding. And then start to fold forward now, taking your hands in front of you and then lower down onto forearms. Elbows walking forward. Let the abdomen recede. Let the upper buttocks release down towards the blanket. So the navel recedes back towards the anterior spine, and the bottom front ribs still extend forwards to keep the front of the trunk long. Keep the kidney area open and expanding. So don't let those bottom back ribs sink forward, but rather gently move the front ribs towards the back ribs and then slide the whole rib cage forward. Buttocks grounding down behind you, thigh bones grounding vigorously. Steady breathing here. And then walk your hands back towards the pelvic floor, and then take your hands behind you so that you can sit tall. Staying active in the legs. And then slide your legs together, bending the knees. Now we'll do a version of Virasana, seated pose. Open up your blanket onto your mat like you see here. And place your block onto the blanket and then come onto your shins with that block between the feet. Rest the top of your head onto the sticky mat and use your hands to pull the calf muscles down towards the Achilles tendons and out to the sides so that your thigh bones can sit down between the shins and the calves went lateral so there's room for the thighs to sit down. And then pull the skin of the shins forward and pull the flesh of the buttocks back so that you can really sit on the center of the sitting bones. Make your adjustments here. Make sure that your feet and toes are pointing straight back. Rest your hands on your thighs. Feel the natural curves of your spine here. The head balanced right over the pelvic floor. Breathe up and down your spine here. Create a little lift from the low belly. And then interlace your fingers and press your palms forward. And lift the hands up to the ceiling. Take the arms back and keep the waist pulling back as the arms go back. So you want to avoid the belly swinging forward as the arms go back. The belly should recede back. The elbows pull in towards each other. The hands press up. The lower belly lifts. The thighs are grounding down. And then exhale and lower your arms down and switch the interlace of the fingers. Press your palms forward and pull the abdomen back and lengthen the abdomen as you lift the arms back and lift the palms to the ceiling. Long in the waist. Let the arms be an extension of your waist. Press the shoulder blades forward into the rib cage, but let the abdomen settle back and lengthen. The roots of the thighs are grounded. Breathing here, getting grounded through the sitting bones as you inhale, and soften and open the soft palate, the back of the throat as you exhale. And then lower your arms down and rest your hands on your thighs. Now we'll practice Gomukhasana legs. So stack up 2 folded blankets as you see here. And then come onto your hands and knees with the blankets behind you. And cross your right knee in front of the left knee as you see. And then you'll crawl yourself back so that the folded blankets are between the feet. And let yourself come to sit back so that your buttocks, your sitting bones, are supported by the blankets. And your legs are in this very crossed position. And take a moment to adjust the flesh of your calf muscles and adjust the flesh of the buttocks so that you can sit right on the center of the sitting bones. And so your legs are very deeply folded into each other. So you can have the heels quite close to the outer hips, or you can move the heels a little further from the outer hips. Hands on the blanket behind you. Lengthen and lift the spine, shoulders back, elbows back. Let your thigh bones settle. And then change the position of the hands so the hands will rest on the top knee. Have straight elbows and lift from underneath the heart. The abdomen is receding back. And let the thigh bones and the knees be heavy and relaxed. And then start to come forward, taking your hands onto the floor, and walk those hands even more forward as you find a gentle forward bend here. So let there be a gentle curve in the spine, something like a child's pose back. Think of pulling the right femur back towards the hip socket, and think of firming the outer hips towards each other. Let the upper buttocks release down towards the blankets behind you. And breathe into the sensation here. Connect your femurs back into the hip sockets. Smooth breathing. Be the witness here. Observe yourself in this posture. Observe yourself responding to the sensations. Observe yourself breathing. And then start to walk your hands back to let yourself back up, hands resting on the top knee. Come all the way upright in your spine, head over tail. And then come forward onto hands and knees again, and we'll switch sides. So now take the left knee in front of the right knee, crossing the shins. And back your hips up so that your hips will come down onto the blankets. And take a moment here to adjust the flesh of your buttocks, to adjust the flesh of the calves. And sit tall on the center of your sitting bones. Hands on the blankets behind you. Lengthen the sides of your waist all the way up into the armpits so those side ribs are lifting and the heads of the humerus bones go back. So there comes a natural lift from under the heart, from under the collarbones. Pubic bone is descending, groins deep and descending. And let your hands rest on the top knee here as you invite the femurs to get grounded, the knees to be heavy and relaxed. Spine is tall and natural. And then pull the left femur back towards the hip socket and gather your outer hips in towards the midline as you walk your hands forward to find the forward bend here. Gentle, natural curve of the spine as the belly recedes, as the upper buttocks releases down, as you gently lengthen the trunk forward. Head is relaxed. You can stay active with the femur bones, gathering the femur bones back towards the hip sockets and gathering the outer hips in. Breathe into the sensations here. observing each moment, not at all placing judgment on the situation. Stay present here and breathe into the sensations that arise. And now start to walk your hands back so that you can sit up tall. Hands stack on the top knee again. Steady, smooth breath here. Lifting and opening through the back of the throat. Outer hips are grounded. And then come forward onto hands and knees to come out of the pose. Now we'll practice Supta Virasana. So lay your blanket down on the sticky mat as you see here, and have a bolster and a folded blanket nearby. And then place the bolster vertically on your sticky mat near the blanket as you see, and place the folded blanket on top of the bolster, and that will be a pillow for your head. And then turn around so you're on hands and knees with the bolster behind you. Take the top of your head to the floor and take your fingertips to the upper calves and pull those calves out to the sides and elongate them also down towards the feet. So turn those calves out to the sides and lengthen them down so that you can then sit your thigh bones down right between the feet. And then you'll start to lay out onto the bolster. Make sure the bolster's not underneath your lumbar, so it should be free under your lumbar. And as you lay back, elongate the back ribs away from the buttocks and pull your buttocks towards the backs of your knees. So the lower back becomes very long and tractioned as you set yourself up here, laying back into Supta Virasana. And then adjust the position of the blanket so that the folded blanket supports your neck and head, and stretch your arms out to the sides. Let your shoulder blades slide down your back a little bit, and then release the arms and hands, palms facing up. And let the thigh bones settle, let the pubic bone descend, let the groins be soft, let the knees be grounded. And breathe into the full length of your trunk here. Feel the dimension of your trunk, its length, its width, and its depth. And as you breathe, relax and release internally. Continue to focus internally as you rest here. Stay very present as you breathe. The upper buttocks is reaching towards the bottom buttocks. And then use your hands to help you on up to sit. Come to hands and knees. And extend one leg back to open the back of that knee just for a moment. And then extend the other leg back to open the back of that knee. Now we'll practice happy baby pose. So start laying down on your back, knees bent and feet flat, pelvis and spine neutral, long spine, breathing here. And then bring your knees into your chest and have your knees wide. And then kick your heels up towards the ceiling and grab onto the outer edges of your feet with your hands. Kick your heels away from the sitting bones to keep the backs of the knees open, and let those thighs hug your outer rib cage. And breathe and relax here, and you can do some playful movements like pulling your right knee down towards the armpit and then pulling the left knee down towards the armpit. Let the lower back release and relax. Press the inner feet up towards the ceiling. Stay long in your spine here. Let the abdomen recede and lengthen, so no hardening or pushing in the belly at all. Bring your knees back towards your chest, grabbing onto the knees. Bring your legs back down, feet coming to the mat. And then start to elongate and stretch the legs and reach your arms overhead. Just creating some length here. Rolling the thighs in, stretching the inner feet forward. Lengthening the belly. Deep breath. And then release. And now come to the floor for a posture that I call neutral. It's a supported neutral position. So make a loop in your strap and step your feet into that loop and then place a block between the feet. And then you'll begin to tighten the strap, but leave enough space so that you can now place the other block between your knees, and then tighten the strap around the centers of your thighs so that your legs are very supported here in a neutral parallel position, thighs strapped together, block between the knees, block between the feet. So you're very parallel in your legs, and then lay down, release the flesh of the buttocks away from the low back and reach your arms overhead along the floor and start to breathe length up and down your trunk. Let the abdomen relax and settle and lengthen. See if you can create length in your belly as you relax the pelvis down. Let your femurs relax and settle. The femurs are the thigh bones. So let the thigh bones relax here as you're all strapped in and supported. And then change the position of the arms into more of a relaxation position. So arms more by your sides, palms facing the ceiling, shoulder blades settled down your back. Relax here as you breathe length into your spine. Smooth, steady breath. And just feel your pelvis here in neutral. So not tucked and not arched, but there's a neutrality to the pelvis, the legs, and the spine here. And see if this neutrality can support an open breath. And so the bottom ribs open just as much as the middle and top ribs as you inhale. And exhale. And then inhale again here. And a smooth exhalation. Continue to bring your attention inside. And then bring your knees towards your chest, remove the block. Take your legs out of the strap loop and come out of the pose. Now we'll practice a version of corpse pose called dead man pose. So make a loop in your strap and step your feet through the loop. And then tighten up the strap so that your knees are strapped together fairly snugly. And then start to lay down on your back and set up the flesh of your buttocks so that it's pulling away from the lower back, so the buttocks is releasing towards the feet side. And now make your feet quite wide, so the feet are as wide as your sticky mat, and point your toes in slightly so you're a little bit pigeon-toed. And then slide your shoulder blades down your back and take a nice deep breath in to lengthen your spine and let your arms and hands relax. And just let the femur bones relax here. So the femurs are relaxing into the hip sockets. Smooth, steady breath here. And now start to draw your knees in towards your chest so that you can reach for the strap. Loosen it up a little bit and then take the strap off your legs. And roll on to your side and come on up.